I think we can get started here. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. This is a special session. As we are all aware, on January 5th, the city commissioners voted to give us a 2-month extension to come up with better framework to strengthen the Fargo Human Rights Commission. And we've been meeting and brainstorming on the way forward, and that is why we are here instead of having our regular Human Rights Commission session meeting at the dais. We decided to come in the room so that we can talk to each other on the way forward. So you are welcome, and let's be prepared to discuss. Thank you.
Did you want to go around with introduction?
Can we begin with introduction? I think I can start here. We just go around the room. I'm Sekou Sirleaf, Chair of the Fargo Human Rights Commission.
Nancy Boyle, Human Rights Commission.
Cody Severson, Commission Member.
Carolyn B. Craft, Commission Member.
Xavier Welty, Commission Member.
Thamba Saw, Commission Member.
Brenda Derrick, Assistant City Administrator for Fargo.
Melissa Farrell-Chapaski, Assistant City Attorney.
John Strand, City Commission. Barry Nelson, Community Member at Large.
Dalton Erickson, Executive Director for the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition.
Anna Stenson, private attorney practicing in immigration law.
Christopher Cohn, Fargo resident.
Erin Hemming Frosley, media.
Collins, student.
Which media institution?
North Dakota Monitor.
North Dakota Monitor.
I'm Scott Olson with the Monitor as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And do you mind me asking where you're a student at?
Concordia.
Great. Thanks for being here.
I think we'll have a conversation after the meeting. All right, thank you. As we all know, the Fargo Human Rights Commission was established more than 2 decades ago because the city recognized the simple truth. A strong Fargo must be a fair Fargo. The question before us today is not whether human rights matter, because they do. The question is how we ensure this Human Rights Commission remains relevant, trusted, and effective in a changing city. What we are proposing is not a larger commission, a louder commission, or a political commission, but a community-rooted commission. First, we anchor the HRC. We're proposing that we anchor the HRC directly in the community through the Permanent Stakeholder Council, bringing Native Americans, immigrants, people with disability, LGBTQ residents, youth, with leaders and others into the process clearly, often, and transparently. Secondly, we're proposing that we preserve credibility through principal independence. Human rights, education, and dialogue must never shift with the political winds. Trust depends on consistency. Thirdly, we collaborate by partnering with we are hoping to collaborate by partnering with the North Dakota Commission using Inclusive Fargo as a share hub and working regionally across Fargo, West Fargo, Millville, municipalities. And finally, my proposal, is to recommend to educate, conciliation, mediation, because lasting progress built through understanding and not division. This framework ensures the HRC remains a bridge, not a battleground. Resource, not a risk. Reflection, Fargo is best. That's what we want to talk about. You have a little conceptual framework that I've put together. Is before you, and we can open the floor for dialogue. Where do we go from here? Because this matters. This is about people. This is about the well-being of our city, and I believe that with us coming together, these talented can put together resources that can both human rights and human right related causes in our city to new heights, and we can strengthen collaboration and unity within the city. Human rights transcends race. It has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with politics. And I think we are in such a moment, and the best thing we can do is to come together, brainstorm, and craft a new framework so that marginalized people within Fargo can have a voice. That's all I'm for. And I know every one of us in the room, we all for the same thing too. So thank you for being here. Discussion. I think some people already had this, but you might have formed some ideas and thoughts. Whatever recommendation you give that we can, at the end, we collect all that information and we can come up with final framework that maybe in the next HRC meeting we can work on as our resolution and our charter for the new reimagined Human Rights Commission in Fargo. Thank you.
So the city commission recap, is that done by you, Brenda, John? Is it something that Sakuza already covered in the
He's really
welcome?
already covered it. So yeah.
We have 2
Let's
months.
go over it again though.
Yeah.
If it were.
John, do you want to
Well,
answer it?
I always like it when somebody else does. My sense of things is, and I know it might sound shallow, but I believe that we really do have an opportunity we can come out of this with. And yeah, Fargo has had a Human Rights Commission and we've had a stake in human rights arena, but you all at this commission level know more than I would or others, the frustrations you've had. That you really don't have the ability to be nimble, and you don't have the ability to stand up, and you don't have the ability to speak on a moment's notice when you're restrained by government bureaucracy and all that. So and yet you've done your efforts, your best to advocate when you can. The first time ever was the 10 commandments, if I remember right. And all that. And that kind of was the first firestorm with the Human Relations Commission back then. But, and there's all kinds of examples. Anyway, I think that if we put our focus on human rights in our region, in our community, our broader community, who are our potential partners, NDHRC, Human Rights Coalition, and so on, and maybe they can have a Fargo branch or a Fargo Moorhead branch, I don't know, but and then you don't have you're unfettered. I would appreciate, I hope this new entity going forward has a connect to the city commission. At a request, a minimum, I would ask that we have a liaison appointment to the board, to the new entity. To have that relationship, I would expect that there will be times that this entity will approach the city with messaging, because you don't have any limits that tell you can't, if you choose to, and when you choose to. So yeah, there's frustrations with getting to where we've gotten to, but I think there's opportunities in where we can go if that's where we decide to put our focus. Not what hasn't worked, but what can work, and who can do it, who should be at the table. And from the city's perspective, you have two months to wrap it up. You and the Arts and Culture Commission and the Native American Commission, and there's others already addressed, but you have 2 months basically from January 6th to J6, January 6th, But anyway, that's, I couched in all this is an appreciation for your voices, your commitments to, because I remember when we interviewed most all of you, why you're here. So thank you for all that in the meantime too.
Thank you, Commissioner Strong.
So just so I do have an understanding as to what we're working with, what is the proposal on the floor as far as where we're heading, or rebranding or reorganizing? Is there a proposal on the floor?
Yeah, we got some proposal outlined here. And yeah, go
I
ahead.
can just jump in. So Saku, what I did is so during our, just so everyone's aware of it, the agenda setting, I know
Yes.
the executive, if you flip that one over, nope, the other one over. And they just we just threw out some ideas. And this is really to help you start the conversation of just some things we were thinking of. And so then, and then on the other side is an email proposal from the New American Resource Center. And then the third item you have is after we had that, then SACU assembled this document for consideration. So just so everyone, the bullet points is really to try and help fester discussion and conversation and what would the board as a whole like to see. So just so everyone's aware, that's how those all came to play.
And that's a good question, Tom. I also put together some questions, that I thought I tried to anticipate, that people could come up with. Like, for example, somebody may want to know, is this an attempt to take power away from the city commission? No. The HRC remains an advisory body. This framework strengthens the credibility. So its recommendations are thoughtful, informed, and trusted. That's what we're trying to do. So another person might ask, why does the HRC need independence at all? It's simple. Human rights education and mediation must be consistent and principled. Independence protects trust and prevents perception of political influence. We're not trying to do anything different. So like Brenda said, we came up with these notes and we came up with this framework. It's just a conceptual framework to help us discuss. I thought if I did that, that would kind of, if we have gone through it, help form some opinions before we got here. And then which aspect we want, we can adjust it, we can, amend it, whatever, and come up with a framework that we take to general public.
I'm just thinking ahead for the best use of our time, not only today, but when we meet next month, because by the time we finish up with our meeting next month, that's the last time HRC will be meeting together. Realistically, with that HRC name, what it looks like moving forward, right?
And I think the other question
Yeah.
you brought up, just so we talk about that too, is, is it you want to meet again in 2 weeks and not wait a whole month?
Yes.
And we could, because we can look at that too, of do you want to meet in 2 weeks? To be able, because this will be the first time you've been able to look at all this information. And so, that was brought up too, if there's an availability of everyone.
Absolutely. So thinking ahead, would our overarching goal today to be for the HRC members, others if they want as well, to fill out this handout for us to be able to discuss what we think of this so everybody can think about that. And this is just a thought here. By the time we leave here today, at least have some common themes, put together, where are we at with things? So a 2 week from now meeting, we could finalize potential next steps with February's meeting, possibly bringing in those community partners, letting them know of what we're going to suggest to City Commission. Just wanting to make sure whatever time we have left as a body, that we can use that as efficiently and effectively as possible. That we don't get to February and say, what are we doing? That's not going to be helpful for anybody. So just throwing it out there. I know we have some points, but where we want to focus our time today, I'm not sure.
And that is why I invited Barry Nelson, who is one of the founding members of the Farmers Commission, that goes way back, and Dalton Erickson. He's the executive director for the North Dakota Human Rights Commission. We can pick their brains. They can tell us some good ideas on how to proceed. That's why they are here. So we just want to Carolyn.
Well, I'd like to add something to this sheet. And
Sure.
how would it be funded?
That's okay. That's a good question. It's not a hard and fast answer. That's not.
I know, it's just
So
Mhm.
needs to be,
it's sure.
it has to be there.
It gotta be there. How would it be funded? You know, and those are some of the things we can, talk about. If we have restructure HRC with the city liaison on there, can still work with partners within the community, and we still work with the city. I mean, those are the reason we here to answer those questions. Nobody can answer to any of those questions. Those are answers that we all have to find.
So with the North Coalition, is that what it is? Exactly do you guys check out or see on a day-to-day basis, or I don't know? What is your typical month or day look like?
Yeah, fantastic question. So the Human Rights Coalition works throughout the entire state. We're a loose network of various member organizations and individuals, and we try and pull together local community coalitions to connect to the various advocates for human rights, so we can all be talking to each other. Similar to how the FM Homeless Coalition model is, and other local homeless coalitions. This is just that same sort of structure moved over to the Advocacy for Human Rights. So that being said, we don't have official ties with the human rights commissions, but we do work with you all. So we're outside of the scope of government and are a nonprofit. So.
Just to follow up, since you have the floor right now, Dalton, what are some needs that you're seeing are not being met when it comes to human rights? And I know that is a very broad question, but that will help at least me understand, like, okay, how could that partnership work? Where is some of that focus possibly needed moving forward too?
Right.
We have the heart's in the right place, but where are we pointing that energy?
This is a fantastic question. So our organization has 2 full-time staff members. We're barely able to get by, and we're funded through a few foundations. At a time where we have an unprecedented amount of human rights crises coming even from the federal government, we are understaffed and we're overwhelmed. Currently, that's looking like responding and setting up networks for rapid response to ICE. That looks like informing people of how to get involved at the city commission level and city council. That looks like making sure people know their rights and can defend themselves in court or have access to legal resources, which is one of the biggest driving home points I will make. Legal resources, and thankfully we do have Anna here, are something that is very vital to North Dakota. And I come from this as an angle of, like, I previously worked at the UND School of Law. I am well aware of the lawyer shortage in our state. We have, 3 immigration lawyers in the entire state. So many people are without even representation, and more and more, I find it disheartening, especially on today of all days, Martin Luther King's birthday, that we're even having this discussion of this commission being closed down. Because frankly, I feel like, and I apologize if I'm speaking out of turn, but I feel like this commission may have been set up to fail, to pay the lip service of, like, yes, we're doing the right thing, but we're providing you $30,000 is my understanding for staff time. And there seems to be no real fight towards, like, if you identify a human rights issue, like that the city of Fargo is doing, you can't put a fine or anything on the city to fix this. So you're given no teeth to implement any huge issues that are transparent. If you want this commission to have enough money to self-sustain, allow it to give fines for actual violations and give it some more power. So those are a few thoughts I have, because currently the biggest weakness is that there's not enough money and there's too many fires that we're all stretched so thin. Relying more and more on volunteers to do this work only hurts us all as a community. So, but that being said, I'm more than happy to help however I can. There's only 24 hours in the day, but I try and make the most of them as I can.
I think Dalton, that was excellent. And since you still, I'm kind of thinking, because it's one of the proposals that we looked at in our executive meeting last week, when Brenda, suggested, hey, we have the North Dakota Human Rights Foundation. why don't we collaborate with them as maybe a subsidiary in Fargo? Maybe the State of North Dakota Human Rights Commission, which you had, operate on a chapter basis, so Fargo becomes a chapter of the HRC, and that way we can bring everything together instead of like trying to reinvent the wheels, because you're already doing that. And for the state, and Fargo is part of the state. So is this something you guys will want to look into?
You'd be happy to look into it, but I do think there's a bit of irony that we're pointing out that there are these human rights commissions in Grand Forks, in Minot, in Bismarck. All municipalities have a lot less tax money going towards it. It is Fargo getting rid of it first.
Just like the precedent.
Yes, like why are we setting the precedent here? This is such a small bit of the budget. And sure, this conversation maybe should have been had months ago, but here we are today. And that is something that should be noted, because I guarantee you, if there is no longer a Human Rights Commission that is a chartered part of the city, we will be more against the city because it shows where this city's interest lies, and that is not on protecting the human rights of its citizens.
Okay, so
Could I add just a couple historical references, maybe? One would, being a part of it, the origination, and I would say that the human rights, human relations, now human rights, really evolved over time. I felt like the charter really hasn't changed substantially, but I think the purpose of the organization was very substantial, very specifically to identify and work on human rights abuses within the community. We never got to the point. We would always bring suggestions to the city commission. I don't know if we ever got one passed. So a little bit of a frustration record of 20 plus years of wondering what kind of impact we have. But, education is really critical, and that's really a part of that, of bringing these issues forward. I would agree. I think the timing and the visuals is horrible. I mean, in the last year, the city of Fargo has eliminated the DEI department. They eliminated funding for MLK Day, which has been around for many, many years, and to Juneteenth, and now proposing any of the commissions that have to do with diversity and equality and equity are being eliminated. I think that's a really strong, horrible message coming from city leaders that this is not a priority. The pretense might be budget, but I agree with Dalton. It's a tiny portion. I looked up the city budget's 140 million. I mean, what is this amount of money? But I would also agree, and I know I've talked to many of you, that the feeling, I got off the commission because I felt my time was not being well used. I didn't feel my talents are being taken advantage of. So I guess the challenge, no matter how we go forward, is because one of the things when I addressed the concern of the DEI going away, and I was assured by some of the city leaders that no, this does not reflect the city backing away from our commitment to diversity and equity. Well, I have seen nothing to argue with that point from that point on. And I think whatever this commission decides to do or go forward, the city really needs to take it upon themselves to figure out how are we going to be communicating to all the communities within our community. We have a robust community of color. We have a robust LGBT community. And this is all reflection of you're not important anymore. And it's really part of the national erasure of people of color and within the LGBT. And I, as a Fargo resident, will stand up strongly to oppose the erasure going on in my community. Anyway, I soapbox one. So
let me correct that impression, because I read that in the news. I see that everywhere that the HRC has this budget of maybe 30%.
Right.
Nothing's further from the truth. We don't have that budget. We don't. What happens is every year for MLK celebration, MLK Day celebration, Juneteenth, the city directly funds Fred dissidents to curate the program. It's not a budget to us. We don't have a budget. If we had a budget, we were working on, maybe we could do bigger and better things. We don't have that budget. So I don't know where they got that impression from, and you listen to all the news, cut them off, they're wasting money in budget. We don't have a budget. That's just factual, so.
I think their definition of budget was alluded to, maybe Brenda's time to coordinate our meeting and stuff like
Yes.
that. But there's no direct budget,
We don't have
See
to.
it.
Yeah. So our thought, or my thought is, if we can, take the HRC to the community, make a community base, and let the community decide how the HRC is run. Maybe it might have some strength to it, with a minimum of, better supervision from the city. Because as long as the HRC remains under the city, just like you said, it's gonna remain toothless. They can't do anything. Okay.
To demand it from city administration.
Yes.
We demand it from city administration to give it.
Yes.
As you're alluding to, as Barry and alluded to, like from its inception, we have not had the backbone that we promised from the inception. So it's a comment I want to make.
Another thing is that our population, Fargo was a magnet for immigration, Lutheran social services and so forth. We have a lot of various groups, and they're not all people of color. You've got Bosnians, you've got Ukrainians. We have a very multicultural city, which was not when I grew up. I don't have any Scandinavian or German blood in me. I'm all English, Irish, and Scotch, and I was rare because it was more,
Sure.
So this was a totally different, and I would argue far more vibrant community. Just look, Fargo is thriving, but it is because of all of these,
Exactly.
yeah, and the businesses and so forth. And so I know we need to focus on people of color, but our immigration populations are broader than that. I just wanted to make that point.
I guess I would also like to push back on the notion that we are not able to act in a reasonable time frame for things that happen in the community as well. It's always been the rule of thumb that if something happens, if we post it within 24 hours of a meeting of ours happening, we can do that. And so if something happens in the community, in the nation, we post it, we can meet within 24 hours and form a plan. That's not a bad thing to me. And I think the city of Fargo does allocate enough resources to the Human Rights Commission to function. We are still able to post things on social media in real time. We can still get out to the community. I'm not opposed to having a community-based component to the Human Rights Commission, but I also think that the city of, I hate the notion that we are the first city to get rid of a commission of this nature, especially when there are others in the state that have it. That is a horrible precedent to set. I think that is atrocious.
Is anyone going to be speaking on this to the city commission before I think that this discussion right here is helpful, but is there a plan to maybe give a recommendation from our end to the city, or once we get it all finalized, or come up with a solidified plan? Because I just don't think that going down quiet and
Sure.
Yeah, do we know when February is, because I'm guessing it would be March's city commission meeting where this will be discussed again? Do we know offhand if we can be on that agenda, or would it be members doing public comment per se? Because if we are on that agenda, I'm guessing there's additional discussion of what are those action plans and not just strictly a vote, but I'm not sure.
I have no idea. This is all new. So my thought would be, depending on where we land, right? That it would be a Commissioner Strand and Saku type of discussion, and you know, kind of how do we go there? And it might be, depending on where everyone lands or where we want to be, it might be, maybe there's a presentation 2 weeks before that comes 2 weeks later, right? So I mean, those would be the things I would see happening. No different than Commissioner Kolpak brought forward the FYI one.
Yeah.
She'll probably be bringing forward the ACC one. And so, I mean, that's what I would say is I would see it kind of a paired conversation. And then I can help wherever I'm asked.
I have 2 questions. Back when, a few years ago, like before Terry was the DI director as well, I know the Human Rights Commission and like the trio of us, we essentially had the social service fund budget line that was at our discretion. Where is that budget line? Is that still a City of Fargo budget line? Is there still a social service fund?
There's a social service fund. Today there is not anything allocated for
How much is it?
HRC. I don't know off the top of my head what that is.
Okay. Because I think the Arts and Culture Commission had their own budget line item. Is that right? No? They took from the social service fund as well?
No, they're funds that go to TAP or.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Sorry, the Arts Partnership.
art partnership, but the Arts Commission does not get that money.
The City of Fargo to tap then?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then, yeah, that's neither here nor there. My other just comment was just that I also think that there's room for like a hybrid system that still involves Human Rights Commission collaborating with a community-based organization to have a bigger impact on the community. I think that would be nice as well. I don't know. What do you all think?
We certainly need further discussion, which is why we're here today. We're here right now just looking at time and propose that we meet in 2 weeks again to continue this conversation so we don't get to 1 o'clock with people potentially leaving and not knowing if we're meeting again in 2 weeks. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
2 weeks.
If it's okay to look back at the handout, and Barry, I'm going to ask you a question because I believe you were part of this. One of the proposals we received in the city, knowing that we might be disbanded, is from the New American Resource Center in looking of some type of partnerships. And you're on the board over there still, correct?
No,
Or that's,
I was going to clarify what that is.
Yeah.
okay.
That's
Because I was like, I made the,
That's New American Consortium.
right, I made the assumption it was a consortium and maybe it
No.
was just a misprint.
Just, no, this is
So New American Resource Center,
separate place.
they reached out to us in proposing that they could do some day-to-day operations. Do we have a contact with that entity?
Cody, have you heard?
They could hear more about what they're proposing with that?
Yeah, so I did forward the email to you all.
Right.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and so there was a name associated in an email and all that.
Got down. Okay.
So I had sent the whole email out to the executive group. And I can forward it out to the whole board if you would like.
Because that would be an entity if we're going to meet again in 2 weeks
So we
to
can invite.
invite to hear what they're suggesting before we make decisions. Potentially.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that being said, can we identify entities like this New American Resource Center and the Human Rights Coalition and some New American Consortium, other groups within the city that we can invite to the meeting? 2 weeks from now is the 29th of January.
Well, and to ask, I mean, there was some conversation here about making this a metro entity. Moorhead has their own Human Rights Commission. I mean, so it would be presumptuous to talk about a hostile takeover or anything. I mean, it would be just basically.
It's not a takeover, it's collaboration.
So anyway, and and my question, I guess, too, would be is, I think it's critical is if some form that this would go forward, how would members be defined, appointed, elected? You know, now it's a pretty clear process by which people are appointed to the commission. And
So we are really a region. West Fargo, you know, it's all intertwined. I know different states, but the issues our little area confront are the same.
Is there a way to get any of the commissioners to come to the next meeting? I mean, I think that if we can come up more with, better ideas and a more straightforward plan, I think it would be beneficial for them to come and see what exactly we are kind of facing, what we've been facing, and maybe hear the input as to their thoughts on the HRC. And I mean, we heard full that for Denise and Mayor Strand.
And Commissioner Strand is going between, he was here.
Here's the liaison. So,
And so he just, NAC happens to be meeting at the same time.
yeah.
So he's just going up and down between the two meetings. So he will join us in a couple of weeks and
Anyone else? I mean, is there anyone else that could?
I think,
I mean, they all kind of put their 2 cents into it, so I think that, since they did that, they kind of put their foot in the water. They would like to hear more on their, reasoning and suggestions.
I think what you're asking for might not be applicable because the city commission has John Strand as the liaison. So that's why he's here with us to listen and take back to them. So I think the best thing we can do is to come up with a resolution on the reformation of the Fargo HRC with the input of, the liaison, Commissioner Strand, and then maybe like Nancy is proposing in February, we can be included on the agenda. We can do a presentation on our conclusions, and then all the commission members definitely.
Just to add on to that, I think there's more to like having a reformation discussion about the HRC. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to like funding as well. I think that's a whole separate discussion. And also privatizing the HRC is another thing. So if we want to be privatized with the community, what it means is that we're going to be responsible for some of the resources we get here, like, having the space to have our meetings, like publicizing our meetings, and we're going to need funding for all of that. So the protection of human rights is also a key responsibility of the city. So we need to have a discussion on how they're going to be able to support that when we become privatized. So that's why I want to agree, if there is a need, in addition to Commissioner Strand, we can have 1 or 2 additional commission members to join us in one of those meetings and really talk about it and see how we move forward from that, as opposed to just giving a proposal to Commissioner Strand and taking it to them. God knows, they're just going to listen. Perhaps they might not do anything about it, So.
I think when I listen to Dalton and the HRC, he talks about some of the sources of funding, right? Different positions. I don't know. I really don't have a fear. My fear is we're trying to replicate what already exists, because if we insist on the source of funding being the city, if they're funding you completely, the same thing will happen. And you only do what they want. You're not going to be independent anymore. And let's bear in mind, even if the city is to completely scrap the HRC, now individuals in the city that will step up and start an independent human rights commission that will be completely non-governmental, and they will still get funding because the cause of human rights it affects everybody. So there are organizations that would be willing to sponsor any organization that would try to fill that void. So I don't, but the funding,
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. We still have the voices of the diverse groups that make up our community. That's where I'm getting a little afraid and fearful. I mean, at the end of the day, we were called here by Strand or whoever else and given a call, and that was because it was widely broadcast. It was able to reach many people. Fargo has a strong backing and history, so it's able to reach many people. I fear that with trying to start a new organization from an organization that really didn't have the support and backing that it necessarily needed, well, it would cause there to be less people to know what their options are. I mean, you know that there's options, but less confidence. You know, people are going to feel less confident in their ability to seek help and feel safe. I think not necessarily like the Human Rights Commission over the last 20 years, from my understanding, has just been a beacon of I don't know. I mean, I want to call it for show since nothing's really been done, but also, you know, for people who don't necessarily see behind the scenes, it is kind of a symbol of, hey, there is a protection out there. There is a force that's helping me that will be on my side in case, you know, discrimination or human violations take place. Yeah, I mean, I guess I just, yeah.
Yeah, I think we certainly have to pay attention to what's going to be taking place moving forward. Number one goal, hopefully across the board, is we know there's human rights, we know they're being violated, and we need to provide space for people to be heard and move things forward, which we can't do right now in some ways because our commission doesn't have authority to move things forward without approval of others, where that could happen if we weren't under that of the city of Fargo. With that being said, whatever we do moving forward, as long as we have that key foundational goal and to decide of what are we going to do diligently, money or not, to continue to make sure Fargo citizens have a place to be heard one way or the other. And I know that's a very broad piece, but at the end of the day, funding or not, the people around the table right now genuinely care. They're going to continue to do the work one way or the other. It's how can we do that in a collaborative way and make as much impact as possible so we're not duplicating work, but streamlining it in essence. And I know that's been heard in other places, but I just want to throw it out there of where that focus is moving forward in the next couple of meetings. But
yes, Mayor.
And in a way that's preserving people and like abstaining from burnout and things of that nature that come with resources. Go ahead.
I have to leave, but I just want to throw, you know, a couple more names out. You know, I think High Plains Fair Housing. I mean, you're still looking at for people at the table who are doing comparable kind of work, and I think that might be a person or an entity to enlist. Certainly, New American Consortium as a local entity. Service, not advocacy so much. So, you know, I think people's lanes have to be defined as we go along, but I think maybe that as long as you're having the conversation at this stage and getting people's input. So thank you. It's daunting, but thanks for your commitment to keep the idea of human rights front and center too.
Sure. And let's anybody be afraid. We're not trying to completely extricate HRC from the city. What we're proposing is just to have the resident have more sway on the Human Rights Commission, and there will be a city liaison to the HRC. So we're not completely. We're still going to be partnering with the city.
Did they say that?
Huh?
Did they say that? Because they
No, that's what we're proposing.
Okay, yeah, but the impression I had was like, okay, we continue to so.
That's what we're
I mean,
proposing.
it is the impression of a couple cities.
So, if I can, I'm gonna speak for Commissioner Strand, sorry.
We have 8
Any-
minutes, so let's.
So one of the things Commissioner Strand had communicated, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is just, we've seen what FYI did.
Sure.
And it's kind of a MOE memorandum type agreement with the liaison commissioner still appointed. And so I think his thought was, is there anything we can pull from that could help incorporate into our proposal? Please correct me if I'm speaking that, but that's kind of where he's looking at. Is there, one of our members we lost to West Fargo. So if we can
Yes,
figure out a way to make that a little more larger too, I mean, that gets that pool of members a little bit bigger also.
Excuse me. Reach out to learn more about the FYI and or Fargo.
So there is not an agreement yet. It's just, it was a proposal. So I think if you want to talk to Commissioner Strand, you could, but it was one of the agenda items. So I mean, that's kind of how that
I think
strategy is looking.
if you want to message Kristen as well, I think that she's also trying to move on between the board and City of Fargo.
Correct.
Commissioner Strand and Kristen together. I totally agree, like that is a good thing to look at, to re-implement in this way. Fair.
And it's a concept, and that's the whole point, is the concept's been approved. Is it completed? Absolutely not. Are they still working on it? Absolutely. But there's a concept and a structure that is moving forward with
It's a
that.
template that exists.
Yeah.
okay, so we have 6 minutes to this meeting. I want to give an opportunity if there's any public comments that we hear before we conclude, summarize, and conclude on this. Is there any public comments? In the absence of that.
Oh,
Cody.
Cody Schuler, and a citizen of Fargo, but also the
Yes, yeah.
advocacy manager for the American Civil Liberties Union of North Dakota. And
Let me include you guys on the list.
part of, I think part of the reason that I came today, but also then jotted a few notes here for public comment, is that just another perspective to all of this is I think that this body, and we've named, I think Barry did a really good job of sort of filling in that history of some of those things. And so I think we all agree that something different needs to happen. But I think at its basic premise, the damage would be done if this group was not in some way affiliated as a part of the city structure, because we are government, democracy of, by, and for the people. And this is a citizen board appointed by elected officials to do a part of the work. We know that the city commission has a lot of stuff on their plate, and we've all sat at meetings, right? And you sit there, and oftentimes what takes up the most of the time? Zoning, sewer, water, gutter, right? All really important stuff. And that is oftentimes what takes up the bulk of the time. Why? Because that is where the money is. That is where some of the meat and potatoes is of why we have a city, right? Water comes out of our tap because that group meets. And also there's a human component. And when something comes up like a concern about a social issue or a human rights violation, that also belongs there because we, the people, put that on their agenda. Having a subgroup dedicated to focus on that is a key part of the healthy functioning democracy of our city. Now, has it been healthy and functioning currently? No, we all agree that something different needs to happen. But in principle, this group must exist in some capacity. And I think if you move it, so number one, the city already, there's been many times when our commissioners delegate stuff off their plate to this group. Where does it go if they're not here? They're not going to delegate that to a nonprofit or some other group. I used to be the executive director of the Fargo-Moorhead Coalition to End Homelessness. That somewhat always existed, but became a staffed nonprofit organization because the city had to have a 10-year plan to end homelessness, and they were put in charge of it. Well, guess what? That only works 50% of the time because the city doesn't have to engage, right? Unless you got an MOU in place. But even then, that is of by choice. And it's easy to then completely shirk the responsibility. That's a nonprofit's job to like worry about the human rights or even the fluffy stuff, right? Arts, whatever. And so to have a place for this very important issue, I would say this would be true of the other two, commissions that are also are having these discussions. And so lessons learned from the Homeless Coalition, which is an important part, but becomes an advocacy piece, right? But can be taken seriously or not taken seriously. But as someone who has a mandate, established an ordinance by the city with a purpose and a task list of things to be doing, if this group goes away and you delegate that to something that's outside of the accountability of government, it's gone. You might as well just not meet in the first place because there already are groups like Dalton's and mine and others that are doing that work. And so if the city disbands it after getting a mandate at some point to say to do this, if the city says we're not going to do that anymore, that's I think a louder message because it was a loud message when they formed it. It's a louder message than anything we've emphasized today if they kill it. And so I think that in order to preserve democracy, in order to provide a venue for free speech, and I think if you want to, it's not just about money. You want commissioners to really, I don't mean to be like no shade. You all have given your time, right? But we know that you inherited maybe a broken system, right? But at the end of the day, if we have a real issue in this community, months of protesters showing up over a war resolution, if it's like an issue that's like, because that's, again, we could push that off, right? That's across the sea. Is that a city issue or not? If we had an issue that was very much at the heart of what's happening in this community, the crowds we saw and the time taken by our city commission to deal with that, that would be a picnic on a Sunday afternoon compared to what would be at their door for months on end, and sewer and water would suffer. If this group doesn't exist and the city elected officials don't take this group seriously. So you've acknowledged, and this is how I'll close, I'll say, you acknowledged, right? Like, we have procedural issues, we have whatever, maybe we're not, you didn't say this, but are we not taken seriously? Do we actually have gravitas? Well, if you give it up to a nonprofit, you're going to give what you do have away, by way of mandate. In the words of Shirley Chisholm, right? If you don't have a seat at the table, or if they don't give you a chair, you bring a folding chair, right? We already have a spot at the table. Are you using it? And so I would say, rather than have a conversation about who can we share work with, who can we delegate work with, you look at, section 1.2 mandate and say, let's sit down and make a strategic plan of how you accomplish those things. My organization just did it. We have a 3-year plan. And what we're going to do, we have goals. I meet with my director weekly, right? It's a little different because that's my employer, but in the same principle. And so I think that when it comes to the area of human rights and civil liberties and civil rights in our community, we are well the worse off if we don't improve what we already have. Because if we give it away, we just might as well shut it down. So thank you.
This is exactly what we were looking for. That's why we sent this out. This is not the resolution. This is, thank you, Cody. This is exactly what we want. So what I'm hearing is we still keep HRC within the city, but request for, more liberty to operate, proper funding, and, giving us the tools that we need to work with to deliver on, the purpose for which we created. So we can go back now and put that into a better framework, come back again in 2 weeks, and we take it from there.
Did the other community member want to speak?
Did you want to speak?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear. All right, we already over time, but you can have 2 minutes.
Well, I wondered why no one from HRC was at the last city commission meeting, which was all up for debate.
Yeah, I was there.
Okay, but I mean,
I did try. I tried to speak. I was actually too late, but it was.
Yeah, but somebody from here needed to not be too late. I mean, you guys should have done it together and either try to get on the 7 slots commenting directly on that agenda item, or then if you can't, then get into one of the many more, like 12 spots at the end of the meeting for public comment. But somebody should have. And I think there are 3 people from the Native American Commission. It's a very good speaker from the ACC, Monica Brown Ecker, who made the argument that what is the purpose of these commissions? It's for city transparency, so that the public can see what the city is doing on each of these issues. Because these boards and commissions, committees are before the public. Okay, if they're transferred to nonprofits, that's not before the public. Those are private organizations. And we no longer see what the city is doing with regard to civil rights. And also, there seems to have been a secret decision in the city to disband these 3 committees quite a long time ago. And that was not voted on nor shared with the public. So that was a complete surprise at the last city commission meeting. Now, I've gone to the informational meetings the city commission has. One was in January, another one was in June, and that was never said. What was said about these 3 particular commissions they're talking about now was to limit or off-ramp them or streamline them. And then there were different commissions that were suggested for elimination, and those were eliminated. So there's been like a gentleman's agreement by the city commissioners to get rid of these, and they were supposed to do that before the public with a vote, so the public can see what's happening at each stage. So it's been done in secrecy, and it's against the state law of open records, open meetings law. You cannot do that. And they're probably violating the charter too in doing that. So my problem here is that we're not here yet. The Fargo residents have not been, there's been no explanation for why we should get rid of any of these commissions. So that hasn't been decided that we know of, and because we haven't been given any valid reasons. The money doesn't make any sense. I went through that whole budget thing for 2026. They wouldn't even reduce the airport by 5%. They reduced the buses by 28% and the airport by nothing. They could have saved about $70,000 by reducing the airport's budget by 5%. They could have mowed every 2 weeks instead of every 1 week and saved $95,000. They could have slowed the street repair and pothole, resurfacing the streets, and saved all sorts of money. None of that was touched. There was no pain sharing across the board. These were all, what they did was they went on an anti-woke mega agenda. They looked at that budget and they picked it apart, and then they voted on it, and they never told us any of their reasonings. So we don't even know. John Strand has told me nothing. He never gave me an idea of what he suggested be cut before they had a final vote. I emailed him many, many times. He would not make one suggestion. I gave him many ideas that I came up with, and he gave me very little feedback.
Thank you, Christopher. I mean,
Time.
we're almost 4 minutes in, so.
Yes, so
I would just like to add with the climate right now, if demonstrations make the city commission uncomfortable, well, that's because there are issues that are being raised for the citizens. And the climate right now, especially in Minnesota, we are not that far away. It's not going to get better.
Sure.
And we have got to still be a voice.
Yeah.
And the city's going to have to deal with this. This is something they're going to have to deal with. They can't wish this away.
all right, so next step, final item on our agenda. So the next step is we propose that we meet again in 2 weeks. That will be Thursday, January 29th, here in the same room at the same time. And definitely, Cody, I'm going to work with you so that we, especially when you talk about session 1.2, so we can see how we can restructure that. I'll work with you, Dalton. We'll work with every other group. Plus, what's that group? The New American Resource Center. We're going to work with everybody. Maybe before the 2 weeks, I'll reach out to see if we can get together so that we can restructure a better framework that we can present in 2 weeks. From there, we can come up with the final resolution that we can put to the commission. Will you guys be open to that? Thank you. Is there any other thing we need to discuss?
And so I think, so what I'll do is I'll get an invite out
Yes.
today yet, so everyone gets it on their calendar right away. And then would you like me to schedule it for longer than an hour?
Yes, I would prefer you schedule it for maybe an hour and a half.
Okay.
We don't have to spend that time. We could
Right,
do it
we'll
within
have
an hour.
it booked.
Yeah, but just so people make room when they come in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you send it out, because there's some people that weren't here, just a little background on why we're doing it in 2 weeks,
Oh, okay.
you know?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
All right, thank you all for coming. This meeting is adjourned.